Welcome to the Property Couch, where each week you get to listen to two of Australia's leading property experts. Bryce Holdaway, co-host of Location Australia on Foxtel's Lifestyle Channel, and Ben Kingsley, Chair of Property Investment Professionals of Australia, and the 2014 and 2015 Property Investment Advisor of the Year.
All right, folks, you're on the Property Couch, where each week Ben and I bring you the insider's guide to property, finance and money management. Welcome to the couch, mate.
Mate, always pleased to be here, and we're on the couch.
We're on the couch, and not only that, for the listeners who are just listening on their phones, they can actually go to the website and view this one, because we've got a very special guest today with some very special toys to go through. But before we get to Nigel, my Mindset Minute theme, Ben, is very, very simple today. If you want to conquer fear, don't sit at home and think about it. Go out and get busy. Dale Carnegie, one of the best books that's ever written, How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's a classic. And the reason I chose that one, Ben, is because we've got a man on today who went out and got busy. Welcome, Nigel.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. You've got probably the coolest title for a job.
Agreed.
My favourite job would be to host Top Gear. I think that would be that would be brilliant. But you are the chief inventor.
Yeah, it is pretty cool, because you'd probably just end up as Top Gear host as your business card title, where chief inventor does raise a few eyebrows along the way.
Yeah.
It's kind of what I do. I invent, and I'm the chief of the invention kind of crew that we have running. We've got a lot of people who are devoted to that. It's invention, not innovation.
Yeah.
There's an important story behind that.
Yep.
And I've been doing it about 6 months. Got some labs, got some crazy VR and AR technologies, and we're just trying to make some stuff.
Well, Ben, I've got a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. You've got a 7 and a 5.
Yeah, thereabouts. Jack's almost turning 7.
Wait till we get home tonight and tell him that we hung out with the chief inventor.
I probably won't go home. If these toys are that cool, I'm just going to be a bit later tonight.
Let me set this up. Nigel Dalton is the chief inventor for the REA Group, Ben.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you that don't know that, that's best known as realestate.com.au or realcommercial.com.au. Nigel has over 30 years of IT-related experience across multinationals and startups. In 2007, he joined travel publisher Lonely Planet as General Manager of Information Technology, becoming Deputy Director of Digital, which was their web and mobile businesses, in 2010. Most recently, he co-founded a consultancy, Lunar Tractor, to help organisations apply systems thinking, lean and agile software development techniques to all aspects of business. And the REA Group is in Richmond, Ben, in Melbourne.
Here in Melbourne.
They've constructed a technology and innovation space in Melbourne's Richmond to create, trial and launch the newest technologies for consumers to experience property, which we're going to talk about a bit more today. And this, the REA Labs will house a range of new technologies such as virtual reality, augmented reality, drones, robotics, and will become the training centre for the group's global graduates, design engineers and product teams. That is really, really cool.
That's fun stuff. How do you get into that sort of gig?
Well, look, interestingly, I'm a social scientist. I'm actually an economist by training in economics and geography, Kiwi. So part of that is the culture of our place. You've got to invent stuff. There's not much there. The hobbits have got all the jobs. So I think that spirit, growing up a farm boy, and just developing a sense of resilience about there's some things you can control, there's some things you can't control. Need a sense of humour about the weather. The stupid sheep shoves its head through a fence, and those probably gave me my core character. And then from there, it's been a ride, 30 years. This has been an incredible 30 years to be alive, with the invention of the internet. And even within my career, I've probably had 4 careers along the way. And a lot of that, being a social scientist, has been about what's the human side of this technology? What are we actually trying to achieve? And I think there's that Kiwi, there's a sort of, I'm not a communist or a socialist, but there's a sense of social justice, I think a sense of fairness that comes with coming from that country. And that's a big part, access to this technology. Let's make it easier for people to live. Let's find ways of saving them time, and that's really been the foundation of REA Labs. So the engineers are vital, because essentially, if you describe the job, it's get that thing that's on the cover of Time magazine and actually make it work. So the Internet of Things was on Time magazine's cover in 2014. It didn't actually work. You know, you buy a Google Home or one of these cool new devices that's out at the moment. Well, good luck making it compatible with your fridge, your lights, and you read the
toaster.
You read your oh no, you need the other lights for that one. Sorry,
you have to change your whole household
that only works
configuration.
with the Apple Home Pack, and that's a lot of what the labs is about. You've seen the tech. How do we actually make it work? And in the property industry, particularly.
We see a lot of conversations around disruption and largely around technological disruption, but what was life like as an inventor in social science, BG, you know, before Google, before the internet? Was it a bit simpler back then?
I don't think it was, and actually I've run into people who can't believe we didn't ever have the internet. You know, that is.
I got a university degree without the internet.
Yeah, and likewise, I worked in workplaces when we didn't have that kind of speed of connectivity, and that's the thing that's changed. Is ideas spread very fast, very far, business models spread fast. You can research anything. And we just used to take a little longer to make decisions, I think, in the old days, and you couldn't possibly hope to have the amount of information you could collect today. I see there's some interesting counter trends that are social, that are emerging now. The disrespect for the professional is, I think, going to be a big thing going forward. Whereas there was always a sort of a reverence for the professional in the 90s in particular, because they had taken the time to absorb that information, could give great advice.
The subject matter expert.
And now I fear this is going to become a big deal, where we've got Trump in America, who's the anti-expert, that's the reality TV hero as president of the USA, and that is genuinely a reaction against experts telling me what to do. And that's a big one for our industry going forward. So it's about enabling other people to have the access to that knowledge. People trust their Facebook friends possibly more than they trust a big brand today.
I agree. I think if you actually have a look at what's happening in our political environment around the world, there will be that tech I'm on board versus I'm not on board. And if, you know, there's obviously a huge amount of fear about job disruption, and, you know, all of our jobs are going to go. And I sort of, you know, run a joke inside the business of what was the biggest killer of jobs in the history of mankind. It was actually the tractor. So the tractor took more jobs than anyone else, because we used to harvest by hand. So, you know, so these are the types of things. But if all of us get a vote, you know, if we're going into that sort of big sphere of where the world's going to go and the social aspect of that, we may vote down technology at some point if we feel like, you know, there's not enough in it for me. So I'm interested to see how the next 20 years plays out. Yeah,
well, if you go back over 200 years, we've coped with some massive changes. America in the 1800s, the vast number of jobs were in agriculture. Over 90% of jobs could be classified as farming or agriculture of some kind. Well, now it's under 5. And it's probably maybe 2 or 3.
Oh, it's going to get lower too, with, you know, the harvesters now drive themselves and seed themselves, and, you know, basically drop the wheat into the truck, and the truck takes it to the depot, and there's someone sitting back at their, you know, the farmer sitting back in his office.
And it's about the tasks, not the jobs. So I do believe 40% of jobs are going to be impacted by robots in the next couple of decades. There's lots of stats around that, and it's about the tasks within the job, and that's what we have to think for our industry is, what tasks are people doing in our industry that are better done by a machine? That doesn't mean that jobs go completely. And I think we're pretty privileged to be in an area that is so human dependent that people shouldn't fear that too much. You know, I used that slightly link bait headline at AREC about
friend or foe.
And jobs, the average real estate agent will kind of potentially be replaced by a robot in the next at least decade, and possibly earlier. But that's an average person. That's an average person doing their job. There's still a lot of space for the great ones. And it's just coping with that change. Our generation, rather than 200 years ago, these changes were glacial. They took decades to come in. We're experiencing a world where, you know, in 12 years, we've gone from phones that were phones to phones that are supercomputers in your pocket, and all of the connectivity that's come with that. So it's getting faster.
Before we dive into a whole range of things you just chatted about, should people be afraid of robots? You're in a unique sort of perspective to see that, because my view, Ben and I talk about this a lot, and Ben's really into this space. Is there a need for humans going forward if the robots can do everything? That's Ben uses that idea of the harvester replacing a lot of jobs. But if everything gets done by a robot, then no one needs to go and earn an income, and then what's the point of having them? And then we start to see some of those sort of science fiction movies start to come true.
Well, it's always been the science fiction dream that all of the terrible work would be done by robots, and we could just sit back and kind of have grapes peeled for us by the grape peeling robot and relax. It's never quite that cut and dried, but I think we should be aware. I follow a writer called Yuval Harari, who's written a brilliant book. Sapiens was his first one, but Homo Deus is
he's incredible.
What goes in the next 100 years.
You read them?
Yeah, well, the TED Talks, he's been on a few places.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say, mate, Inventor is coming out there.
He's a thinker. He spends, was it 3 months of a year where he goes away and just basically has silence for that period and just thinks. And some of his logic in the way in which he talks about humans and Homo sapiens and that is quite clever.
Yeah, he's a real dot joiner, and I think that's a very modern skill that robots are pretty bad at, which humans can be good at. Yeah. So the dots he joins are around our human behaviours of the last couple of thousand years, and what a kind of an intermediary cyborg thing. So you plus your mobile phone equals a cyborg, but if we wire that in, to your head in some way, and you've got all that extra power, what does that species do to poor old Homo sapiens who can't afford it or otherwise? And his answer to all of this is, we must talk about it. And if we just talk about it, we can have a chance of making some moral decisions. And that's where the social scientist comes on board with our R&D, is to go, you know what, there are places I don't want to go. There are things that are not useful in pure research around robotics. The agriculture one's fascinating because back in New Zealand they can't get farm workers now. So it's turned a full circle. Nobody wants to get up at 5 a.m. to milk the cows. And so it's full on. What robots can we use? Can we use a drone to run around the farm before dusk and check the sheep? I love that. That's kind of coming back a full circle.
I agree.
So we can't complain there's not enough farm jobs now because nobody wants them.
And what I'm also pleased to be seeing in this space, because obviously we've had a lot of people, Elon Musk and Bill Gates and all that, talking about artificial intelligence and AI being effectively destroying the human race. So we are starting to see some leadership from some of our large internet and computer companies and so forth who are driving this agenda to sort of say there is some social boundaries that we need to be careful with, because if we're going to design this thing, we don't want it to destroy us. And that is obviously the fear of the movies that we see that are going out.
Well, it just means if a computer's doing your tax return and washing your car and getting your shopping and doing the cooking, there's no point for the human. So that's which I think is part of that.
But part of that is, sorry, just to round that one off, is that this is what they're sort of saying. I mean, we want humans to be social creatures. So if we've got more time to be social creatures and basically be loving social creatures to each other, then that is a utopian type arrangement. Whereas if we aren't doing those mundane tasks, so if we can get to that stage, then there's some real positives that can come out of that, where we can, because we're all
as long as we can earn an income.
We're working, but we're working harder than ever before. We're working longer hours. Our work life and our home life is now no longer a thing. It's sort of all interwoven. So if we can have that time around the campfire where we can be human again, then there's some positives that can come out of this.
I'm optimistic. Yeah. So the moment that computer got invented and we separated human consciousness from skill for the first time, this is the 1940s, we were on a road. We made that road for ourselves. Where it ends up is up to us. And I don't think there's an era of Terminator where the AI starts making more AI. We'll have some decisions to make.
Are they the movies you like? You like watching those?
I love those.
Yeah. Of course you do.
I'm a nerd.
Yeah. Well, a quick one for you from your perspective. Would you have rather grown up in the 60s and 70s of this century, or of sort of 1960s and 1970s, or would you prefer to have grown up in the 2060s and 2070s from what you see?
I loved growing up in the time I did, the life skills, and I think the key value it's given me is resilience and an acceptance of change and an understanding of ecosystems. So you can't grow up on a farm without understanding those concepts, whether it's the valley ecosystem of the people in the valley looking after each other, or a sense of humour about the fact 3 years of drought and then we get 3 years of rain in a month. Things are connected, and that's now very urban. I have a 16-year-old and I'm delighted he's growing up in Melbourne because this is the new ecosystem. It's a digitally connected, multicultural, complex environment that someone needs to navigate through. I just needed to navigate around the farm.
So tell us a bit, if we sort of pivot back to property, what are the trends in property? How will people view property, buy property, rent property going forward based on what you're seeing?
So I think there's some weird trends and there's some obvious trends. So the weird ones are, I propose to you that we will live and work in virtual realities in the next 10 years.
10.
So your choice in the morning as to which office you're going to is going to be replaced by a choice of which headset will I put on and which virtual reality will I go to meet my colleagues.
Wow.
So it might be that you go to the Facebook virtual reality, the Google virtual reality, your own virtual reality that enables you to drop into the Kuala Lumpur office or the Tokyo office. And that's going to be a thing. And this changes work. This changes cities.
Totally.
Does it change business travel? There's only
I hope so.
Pleasure
I
travel
don't know about you
forward.
at the moment. I'm not loving the 2-hour extra queues at the airport that we're enjoying at present. It definitely does. Now, it's difficult for people to understand how real that can be because we're used to Skype and shouting at computers that don't work and those kind of things. So I'm able to have that kind of optimistic leap of faith that it's real enough that you will be sitting next to me on a couch, but I'm seeing you through a headset and you're seeing me.
So sorry Ben, how much of the day, if a typical work day is, let's just call it 8 hours, which it's not, but let's call it 8, how long of that 8, what percentage will they have a virtual reality mask on?
All day.
All day?
Yeah, so to conceptualise this, head along to see Ready Player One, which is coming out soon. It's a great teen science fiction book about a future world, 2040s, I think. And effectively the narrative is that Facebook has turned into this full virtual reality social media called Oasis. And the kid, the protagonist in the story, he's got to navigate his way through. It's an amazing treasure hunt and people either love it or hate it. I'm thinking you're going to love it actually. And there's no other world. The world they live in is just ruined. Environmentally, all those kind of things. They put the headset in and go into this infinite constructed world. I think that's the way it'll be. School, work, families. So the second part of that view is the potential as to whether we need flash houses to live in. Or do we just need white boxes and everything's projected onto that white box through your holographic glasses?
That'll help with affordability.
Well,
you get a little 50 square metre box.
It'll change the world in affordability straight away.
And clearly there's a little room at the end with a white box in it, but that probably won't change. I don't see any biological
Don't drop your
alterations.
glasses, you won't like what you see, keep those suckers on.
And those are the weird end of it, the things we'll have to get used to. But that can change geographies. People can live in Ballarat and work here. The idea that 57,000 people a day commute an hour to an hour and a half to Barangaroo in Sydney to talk to each other on the internet is just so ridiculous.
And you think in the next 10?
I think in the next 10, yeah.
Okay.
So we're seeing the advances on video conferencing, those kind of things. But that dropped inside a headset. Microsoft's probably leading the way with the HoloLens, which allows a couple of people to experience the exact same reality. So Microsoft owns Skype. So guess what that's going to turn into?
Wow, now have we got one of those here to have a look
We've got one of those here today. I thought I might show you some things.
Bring it. For those people listening on their iPhones or their Androids at the minute, they can either go to Instagram, we'll have some photos of this, or they can go and watch the vlog on thepropertycouch.com.au?
So right now it's gigantic.
Yes.
You know, this is the prototype. It's 2 years away. So we're involved in the program with Microsoft and the R&D around it. But the key technology is here. This is just a pair of glasses inside there. Now there's a battery and there's a series of processors on this side.
Yeah.
But you're carrying a pretty powerful computer right in your pocket right now that can offload those processors too in time. And battery technology improves 20% a year. They've got little cameras on the front that enable a sensing of the space, and the hologram is projected onto the glass surfaces here. So this is like, it's a tiny bit mind-blowing.
Tiny bit.
Because it drops into this 3D space, menus and applications and programs. It actually interacts with the seats here. So there's a game on here where you scan it'll scan that seat and someone will sit in it and they talk to you. That's getting relatively creepy.
Yeah.
I've got to have.
You want to try it?
Come on.
So it's got a little strap. It's going to wreck the hair, but
that's right. The wig.
You're used to REA messing with your hair, aren't you, Ben?
Here we go.
With the videos.
So somewhere in the room here, you should see a Windows menu. So that's the thing. It's Microsoft. So
now, am I on? Do you want to just check that it's on? No, definitely not.
I'll put a menu out in front of you so you can do that.
Let's see if it's working.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll show you
We've got to capture this.
Our demo. So that's the menu command, is this.
Okay.
It's called the tulip. And then I'll give you our property demo. So I'm just going to drop it. It's like a Windows desktop.
Yeah.
The world's messiest because now it's not just one screen. I've got an entire room to drop these darn things in. And I'm going to drop it up there.
That's where I thought you should do it.
And the pinch is the other main control. It allows you to drop and interact with. It's called an air tap.
Okay.
And this is the app we've created for looking at property. So it's around the world, and it effectively drops you into another 3D environment. But
all right,
I've inconveniently dropped it over there. If you don't mind looking.
No, that's all right.
They're just behind me, Ben.
Pop that on,
Okay.
and
watch the rug.
Strap you
Okay,
up
now
there.
I can see it. Wow.
Okay, so just over here, I've dropped a planet.
Yes, you have.
Dropped a what? A planet?
There's
A planet, yeah, and the planet contains our.
Earth.
So the world does revolve around me.
Yeah.
There's a planet on your shoulder, Bryce.
Yeah.
And there's realtor.com. Oh, there's real estate. Okay.
So we've got our three main things. We were in realtor.com in the States, iProperty and REA
Go
Group.
Asia.
So if you use that air tap, that pinch a mosquito
yeah.
movement, you can grab one of those and have a look what's inside that portal. So just a tap like that.
And now I've got a property, like a high-rise apartment block with a pool.
And now we use the stair motion. So just look at the red floors, or you can pull them out with your fingers. It's
Geez, I feel like I'm missing out on the party. I've got to say.
I've got to get it.
That's one of the fascinating things of this technology. It's incredibly antisocial.
Yeah. You're just talking amongst yourself, Ben.
Yeah.
Okay. And now, so to do how do I tap on the one that I want to have a look at?
You look at it, just stare at it, and we've engaged it, so it should pop out from there.
I'm trying to make...
Man stares at wall. It's like brilliant television, isn't it?
Wow. And it's bizarre.
It is,
but
the resolution's incredible.
Yeah, it is.
And
I wouldn't take them off, mate. You look pretty good.
Yeah,
I would have thought that made you look super.
It's an improvement.
So people have got used to virtual reality. This is extended reality or blended reality. So it's a virtual world, but within our environment. No nausea, because you can see through the glass. So I want you to imagine this is a common item, and in the intermediate period, this will be an item at a real estate agency.
So I'm sort of putting in a theatre room in my house at the moment. I should just stop, shouldn't I? Really, I don't need the screens, and I don't
just
need
invite Nigel over.
Yeah,
give it a little
I
tweak.
just need everyone to have a pair of these.
It's always been that way, hasn't it? It's like the moment you buy it, it's out of date.
I know.
Mate, you've got this gargantua in your building. You could add a 50 square metre box. Seriously.
And those are the changes, the personalisation of the technology. So like you've probably got a 100-inch TV, and I'm desperately trying to create the business case at my house for at least a 75-inch, right?
Yeah, totally.
And the fact of life, my wife's smarter than me. She says, look, I've got an iPad and it's here and I'm watching Netflix. Did you know that is the equivalent of a 100-inch television on the wall over there?
Ooh.
Okay, damn, she's good at maths.
Yeah. Yeah, but what about the sore arms? You could go there, couldn't you?
No, it's got a little stand and she's got the high definition headphones
she's
on.
got you worked out. Oh.
She's nerdier than I am. She's all over it. So personalised tech.
See, where my headspace goes is not as great as that, but I sort of see things like, obviously, walking through, so for our buyer's agents as an example, we walk through a property, we capture that instantaneously, we upload that, and for our clients, if we're buying interstate, they would basically come into the office and we would put the virtual reality goggles on and they could walk through the property that we're recommending they buy.
Correct, yeah, and there's so many uses for this. So another one we're trying is, at an open, we drop a bunch of those labels, like the planet you were looking at.
Yeah.
So we'll drop a bunch of labels on different items in the home to answer the common questions that people have. What brand are these taps?
Yeah.
And what does this look like at night?
Yeah.
And we can actually drop those in, leave them as labels, people can interact with them. And that's a good task to offload to what amounts to a computer. And leave the more complex task of actually establishing a human relationship and
negotiating the 100-inch television with your wife.
Yeah, those are
Robot can't do that.
Very complex
Or
tasks.
the sale price with the agent.
Yeah.
Bring it back to
I have my tactics there as well.
Yeah.
Look at the savings this weekend at JB Hi-Fi with 20% off. Look at how much I'm saving.
I like it. We'll get some tips. So we saw you for the first time at ARIC this year. It was a terrific presentation. You had a couple of robots on stage. There was a funky spider that looked like it was out of the Toy Story 3.
Drones.
Yeah,
they were all there.
So you did ask the question, friend or foe, and it was interesting in your talk. We talked about it before we hit the red button today. That in terms of reading that audience, it would be fair to say some of that audience was really fearful for what you had to say. I mean, if you open the talk with friend or foe ? For any real estate agents that are listening to our podcast today, is it their friend or is it their foe?
They need to make it their friend, but the nature of some of the people in our industry, they can be a bit robotic and repetitive and just on sort of subconscious mode, essentially. Their tasks they're performing are well threatened by the sort of robotic things and the transparency of data on the web today on its own. So they do need to worry. We all need to worry. We all need to have that conversation. And partly because the Australian property ecosystem, the eyes are on it. You know, this is going to become the arena of the Olympics of real estate globally, from what I can see. We already have Facebook in property in Australia. We have Google with their investment in a company called 10X in America. Well, they're coming right along. Just look at the way they've inserted shopping and flights into search results today. You've got eBay, you've got Gumtree, big refit this week, trying to clean up the user experience and get onto being a portal for Australia. You know, people have got no idea that Gumtree's owned by eBay.
I didn't until just then.
Yes. About 2 years ago they bought it?
No, it's been a long time asset,
okay.
And you think, it must be Australian, it's a Gumtree. No, it's global. You know, the funniest thing is Gumtree in German.
Yeah.
It's like all the boxes need to be quite long to describe the items. WeChat, Alibaba, Airbnb. Like, I'm not a futurist. I'm not writing about the future. I'm a historian right now. I'm writing about the beginning of a massive change in our industry. But the competition's global. And it's because it's a very profitable industry here. And that's inevitably going to find out as, who was it said that when the tide goes out, you find out who's been swimming naked?
Warren Buffett.
That's the wisdom that applies right now.
So if it's a foe for the average agent and a friend for the good agents, that means the balance is swinging to the buyer, isn't it? In terms of if it's a foe to the buyer, the fact that realestate.com.au publishes all the data already took away an advantage that the real estate agent had, which was the power of information. They don't have that tool exclusively anymore. So is it sort of inversely proportional
Friend
that as
friend to the buyer
becomes more friend to the buyer as it becomes more of a foe to the average agent?
So we have a very strong and distinct philosophy on that we aren't. It's not a two-sided market here. We're not balancing out agent and seller and vendor versus buyer. And we used to think it very simplistically about this. And I think Tracy Fellows, who's our CEO,
I was going to say she's a terrific.
She brought to us from her experience at Microsoft the understanding of this is an ecosystem, a classic ecosystem with at least 20 players. So her ecosystem in the world of software included value-added resellers, beta testers, governments, shops, the old traditional things, OEM manufacturers, and so channel and consumer is something she does natively, and has really inspired us to have a seat at the table among those 22 players and have justification for being there. Now the transparency thing is a consumer trend. We're not stopping. We moved to that property information on our site upon discovering the traffic we built for a Chinese scraping site, Keisu. So they just scraped, irreverent, grab it from here, grab it from there, grab it from RP data, chuck it up there. So in not doing it, we built ourselves a tremendous competitor. And it's still there today.
Keisu is REA's...
It's a competitor. It's a Chinese scraping site.
I'm familiar with it. I just thought you meant that it was yours.
No,
and that's
they did it.
Where,
we had no choice but to move because we were seeing the dissatisfaction among consumers.
Now, it was coming up in the Google range, and you could see a history of a sale of a property.
It is precisely.
And they were basically taking that information from other sites, aggregating it there and bringing it up and creating traffic.
There was no guarantee on the quality or the age or any of that data. But no doubt it was anchoring people's minds going into transactions, and it must have created havoc. And so we had no choice but to go there. And so these are the things. We're good at fast follow. I don't think we're about upsetting or disrupting. And there's going to be some more moments like that as time goes by, as people bring new models into Australia. I think one of the most interesting things of the last 2 weeks is Amazon's sort of slight whoopsie beta launching referrals of people wanting to find a real estate agent. So in Australia, the door was opened to the whole kind of ability to sell leads, and a number of agents bought leads, and Amazon will just walk through that door with a bulldozer. And you know how much Jeff Bezos loves to make huge amounts of profit? Not at all. Doesn't care.
He does not care.
And there, that screenshot from that thing, it's got star ratings. That's the most important thing around leads and trust and transparency that the consumers are looking for. So that's going to be a really interesting one to follow as well. We send a lot of interested potential vendors to our agents today, people out there in the workforce.
So when did the idea of the labs come about? So obviously you've been with the REA Group for a few years now. Was the lab idea always the sort of short-term play? And are you collaborating with any universities, or is it all just you guys on your own?
No, it is. It's hopefully it's something we can add to the ecosystem. There's one of Australia's tragedies is this sort of wallpaper of innovation that gets chucked up. There's been quite a lot talked about that lately. Have labs or X is the new one. Have you got an X unit somewhere here in the studio? Because Google had Google X. That's not a good thing. That's not real, and that's why we talk about Inventor behaviour and inventorship rather than innovation. It's not an innovation lab. The business innovates every day, but it is solving that what comes before piece. We had the idea about 18 months ago, and it was really going, well, what's your business case for it? Because so many of these things fail when you invent something crazy and there's no interest from the actual people running the websites and apps to absorb it. Just those nut bars out in the shed, So we needed a different model, and the secret sort of emerged by me spending more time with our customers, getting ideas from them, and then realising, you know what, this kind of pays its way. So the price of working in labs as an engineer is 20% of your time minimum spent with customers. So 1 day a week on the road. So my list of applicants to come and be an engineer in REA Labs went from 400 to 4, because that's a daunting thought to actually spend a 1 day a week out with customers. But that's
I'm wearing the white coat. I'm back in the lab. I don't want to talk to the customer. Just let me tinker.
Look, and there's a lot of stereotypes about engineers that are true. They are introverted thinkers and those kind of things. I get the bit of curry from me mates there. They say, "Oh, you're not bad. We've trained you from looking at your own shoes when you're talking to me to looking at my shoes."
Like
so I'm on the road. But,
you're well on the path.
Yeah, that's been the secret, and then figuring out what our agenda was. So our agenda isn't the technologies. Our agenda is time, trust, and transparency. What can we do to create those for people in the ecosystem? And as a result,
agents, buyers, sellers,
completely,
lifestyle, paint,
property managers,
everything, the whole lot. Wow.
And so time is in this day and age very, very precious for families, and I can't make it. Einstein confirms I can't make it, and I haven't figured that out yet. So anytime we can remove waste and do that, that's a great thing.
Our listeners and our viewers are, largely property investors. They're going to buy. We get a mixed bag, but largely property buyers. So how going forward will they interact with holograms and chatbots? And for those who don't know what they are, what are they?
So think of it in terms of this technology we're looking at today becoming commonplace and cheap. So this is a $5,000 headset that is not going to become commonplace. Once they're a household item, all my glasses are able to project holograms all the time. It's just like you've got used to your heads-up display in your car now. You'll be used to pretty much a heads-up display in these devices. So people will have these things, and so the virtual reality headsets, which are fully enclosed, they're $100 now, and they work.
You've got some there.
I have. I've brought along the Google Daydream today. So this is the most advanced unit. So today,
might be your turn to put it on.
Yeah, you bet.
Today you need the Pixel phone to go with it. Now their design brilliance was this remote control they've developed. So it just looks like a thing you'd use for presentations. It's very small. That links by Bluetooth to this phone, which drops in here. So this is a significant breakthrough, because the technologies before this were made of cardboard or plastic. And they've made it, you can see it's got a woolen cover. A lot of design time's gone into making that a kind of an acceptable aesthetic. And then the Pixel phones are fabulous as a real competitor for the iPhone. And it just tells you how to do it. It just very simply tells you, okay, put the phone inside there. And it's got a very simple strap. And what we did with this, we said, okay, what would realestate.com.au look like if it was inside one of these headsets? And we could have 3D walkthroughs of properties. We were helped on that one. I'm just linking the technologies together. This is Bluetooth, so it needs to hook to the phone. And then I'll give you a run through it, and you can have a look at the menus and how it goes. That was an experiment. It was a real test and learn kind of classic moment for us, where we're not entirely sure how this will work, but we think it's a thing. So pop that on, and I'll give you the controller.
Oh wow!
And it's this button here. That's your
He's going
button. That's like a
scheme, I think.
laser pointer. And see again the sociability problem. It's not terribly sociable. So you're in a room that's not this room. Actually, the funny thing is the room he's in is a little like this room. It's got a bookshelf and various other things.
Ocean view.
Yeah.
A bit cloudy. I prefer it a bit sunnier, but that's okay.
And there's be some choices about some things to look at there. So it's just a matter of pointing at those with your laser. And
imagine all of us sitting at the pub, and we'll be reaching out for our actual drinks. And then
there was a wonderful sort of joke video of a couple at dinner. And the bloke insists on putting his VR headset on to choose the menu. Never going to happen. Not in our lifetime.
No internet connection. Retry.
Oh, okay. My apologies. I haven't got it connected to the web, so
that's all right. I'm still suitably impressed.
Yeah, it gives you a feel.
You look better, Kingsley.
Yeah. and that becomes an interesting aspect. Is creating avatars of ourselves. Yeah. Is also a next step. So there are machines today in malls. There's a friend of ours has got a company called Import, and that's scanning bodies in malls. Go out to Chadstone today. You can get a 3D model of your body, which is brilliant for shopping online, Amazon or wherever you want to do, because you now know an exact match to that pair of jeans. That's going to be able to create an avatar.
So for those people who don't know what an avatar is?
So just a robotic version of you that lives inside these virtual worlds. Now before...
Can you mess with it, Ben? Just make the guns a little bit...
Yeah, that was it. That was exactly it. He was able to occupy a virtual body and walk around. Wow. So that's where...
So if we could mess with that, it could look like I've done 100 push-ups a day instead of 10.
Yeah, in my 5 squats.
And inevitably, and of course the gaming world's onto this first.
Yeah, totally.
So I employ game developers basically who can take this concept and figure it out.
How big is the team?
I've got about 5 or 6 permanent full-time, and if I take all of the volunteer time from our big hack day events, there's at least 20 people equivalent in a year focused on what's new, what's crazy, what's coming.
Yeah.
And you're seeing some of those, just with those screens, there's some, I think it's Johnson Street in Fitzroy there, where they've got you can strap up into the bouncing gear, and you whack the headset on, and you're literally leaping from building to building, or you've got guns and you're rolling around and you're having these interactive play, and you can see like big glass panels, and so everyone's walking past, and these people have got and they're bouncing around. That is going to explode for the short term, because it's giving that sense of movement and that sense of being able to go out into a world where you're an FBI agent and you've got all these baddies to chase down.
It starts to raise some of those concern questions about how do you feel when you come out of that. There is a post-virtual reality depression of you lose your powers. And you come back, I can't fly anymore in this damn world.
Well, I was going to say that I didn't want to go down the negative path, but you've got some of the executives in these technology companies, Steve Jobs, some of the execs at Microsoft. They don't let their kids play with technology and digital solutions because they know where the addiction that it creates. So when I asked you before about the 8-hour day and you said the whole 8 hours, I didn't articulate it like that, but I was wondering what that might be on a health effect.
Yeah, I think we've got to watch the young brain, the under fives, the very plastic brains in that way. But I think this will become normalised. I look at 2-year-olds who are able to sit there with an iPad. Yeah. My concern about that is it's substituting for something else. Not so much
not that they're doing it.
Are they getting unfit or they're not going kicking a footy or something like that, but what are they losing along the way? And kids are incredibly savvy. They're just essentially looking to see that their parents love that device, that Black Mirror. Have you watched Black Mirror?
No.
Oh God! I mean, in terms of the dark side of the science fiction, it's a British program on Netflix, 3 series, and this is our Black Mirror. It's black and it's mirror-like. It's what happens when this goes crazy. And he said it 10 minutes into the future is kind of the premise.
Okay.
But imagine a world where, for example, you can't buy a property or rent a property without having enough status points. So you don't have enough likes on Instagram. Sorry, you can't live here. And so drives us.
You're in trouble, Ben. You don't like social media.
I'm going back out to the farm.
Yeah, I was thinking I'm going to head back out to the hills.
So every interaction, it's about, hey, can you give me some likes? Can you give me some love? Because then I can get that up, and one of the episodes is a real estate episode, and that's what it's all about. And this woman's life kind of collapses as a result.
So at ARIC, if my memory serves me correctly, you showed a video where is it a chat bot that's answering questions and asking questions for someone? So if they walk into a property, they might ask some qualifying questions.
Yeah, and this is what robots think of them as: everything from just an algorithmic piece of code that's delivering you a choice of news today, all the way through to a sort of fully replicant android from science fiction. We're down this end of the world at the moment with a digital assistant. So everyone's raving about, the Google Home and the Amazon Alexa with the assistant, and we all use Siri, those kind of things. So that's the main development at the moment. The difference between them just being kind of able to help with simple things is the internet. So able to connect those to the web, with a little bit of learning capability, and they know, this thing knows all about us. It knows where we are, what we like, what we've
You're running late for your meeting, traffic's heavy, off you go.
I know, and it can get fairly creepy accordingly. Yeah. So you just got to take that intelligence and embed it in a device of some kind, which could then become a little dog. It could become a small robot, or it could be, as the video I showed, a hologram of Miss Hikari, who is a 12-inch high hologram, speaks Japanese, and becomes a companion. So if you want to go to the cutting edge of what's crazy, Japan. Japan and then China to some extent. So I was in China earlier in the year. We've got about 80 staff up there. Yeah. So in a shopping mall on Sunday, there's two things going on. There's this traditional Chinese dance for older people, which is like what's happened with the bizarre outcome of the one-child policy, is this bonding among old people with dance in the middle of a city in the shopping mall, but the shops aren't open, and virtual reality arcades. And we're not talking fancy arcades, we're talking a tent.
Really?
With a chair and a headset.
But people are still going there.
Going in there, paying a small amount of money, putting the headset on. The old bloke in there, he's like 103 years old, grabs your chair and bumps your chair around. So cool. And you're getting the full experience. That's how we do it in China.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Well, I've always thought, everyone goes to those rock concerts and they're all holding their phone up and they're recording something that they should be
looking at themselves,
but they're sitting there. I think we're all going to go to those and go, and we're all going to be like that. But the stars are right there, but we're all like, I want to see them closer.
My hypothesis is nobody will go to those concerts. They'll be fully professionally filmed in a studio. Everyone will watch from home in that holographic headset, the HoloLens, and be able to stand wherever they want.
So there'll be literally millions of people coming to a concert.
Yeah, and you can
on demand.
Correct. Show me a stadium that fits 1 million people.
Aren't we going to be overweight people who have got virtual reality depression, and eventually we'll all just want to head back to the countryside in New Zealand to milk the cows ourselves? Eventually, won't we do a U-turn?
It's possible. I mean, you look at the opium dens of the 1800s, where the worst elements of society, the middle class, all decided that smoking opium and just lying on beanbags was a great thing to do. All we have to do is look out for the addictive personalities. They exist today. Australia has a gigantic problem with that today. And we should just be looking out for each other. That doesn't change.
So I guess in the context of real estate then, there's a lot of positive changes for the consumer to get more information, to be able to see and access more property, to be able to dream build in the future. They'll be able to walk through that Potts Point $30 million mansion as if they're actually there without sort of privacy. So is the overall thought at real estate, well, I suppose this is like asking the barber if you need a haircut, but is the overall thought at realestate.com that the experience is going to get better, we've just got to embrace it, and I guess the options will just be opened up to the consumer enormously. So let's just walk towards it.
I think so. And if you've been around in real estate, you've seen this before. So I loved showing my young staff how property was advertised in the 90s, with sketches of houses. There's sketch artists. We put them out of jobs. What a bunch of bastards we are. Hundreds of sketch artists out of jobs. And then it became simple photography, and then it became very rich photography. And that rich photography is going to morph into virtual reality experiences in those properties. So there's a lot of agents using the Matterport cameras and creating 3D tours. The interesting use case that seems to be winning is rentals. So property management, there's a lot of pressure on property management fees with some low-cost providers starting to move in. And if you can advertise that quickly, you can give people the experience, they'll start not needing to go to opens. The lost time for property managers
driving
at opens
around,
is
putting
epic.
out the signboard, absolutely.
That'll be huge. That'll help cut the cost.
And then obviously the star ratings or their Insta followings will
not enough likes.
Will be the way in which we do their reference checks as to good tenants or bad tenants.
Life will be one.
Yes.
Life will be one big Australian idol, won't it?
You just go on popular, Facebook, you win. These guys are party animals, no good.
All right.
Well, see, that's what the good agents are doing today. So if I look at some of the people like Jen Toop at Toop and Toops in Adelaide, they've been onto integrating social media into their property management for years. Young property managers friending tenants on Facebook. well, what more information do you need about them? And then using messaging to manage their demand. The tap's broken.
Yeah.
So, like again, the future's already here.
Yeah.
It's just unevenly distributed. It's in Adelaide in that case.
Wow.
Yeah. Digital footprint exists for them when they want to apply for the next property, though. Ooh, there's a few late nights, parties.
And I talk about the two things that are changing are technology and the social side. The line in the sand about what is acceptable around things like privacy is shifting so rapidly. And the Facebook patent a couple of weeks ago granted to turn on this camera, the selfie camera, at any time to gauge your facial reaction to the content and then change the content accordingly. That works within the terms and conditions of Facebook today.
Wow.
So
this has been fascinating.
Yeah, it's been very fascinating.
Watch out for that. I mean, I think the hot product will be little stickers to go over the selfie camera.
Yeah, we'll give them the property couch sticker to go around the outside.
Well, I think the Samsung TV, when you turn the little the microphone comes on and they're listening to your conversation in the lounge room.
Yeah.
So,
and it's that match between a person's life and their needs and their state and the property. That's the massive industry change. We've had 21 years at REA Group of building search technology and making the consumer do all the work with these cameras and these microphones and this computer in the top 3 inches of their head. 2020, the game is match. And maybe you match it ahead of time. So you'll wake up in the morning and just like those science fiction things, there'll be 3 property choices there. Now the interesting thing is we kind of do that today with recommendations, but there isn't the trust there. We haven't generated that. So we're in sort of double jeopardy. People are both searching and accepting the match. Oh, that's interesting, I'll look at that. But I'll go and see what else is in that neighbourhood. So we're triple work, search, match, search again, and wait for the next match. People will generate enough trust in that recommendation to not bother searching on our site.
You heard it here first, Ben. Start investing in robots that can peel your grapes because there will be a huge demand. We'll have so much time.
Middle class.
Hey, last question for me, Ben. I don't know if you've got a final one. Is what are we likely to see in the next 12 months from the REA Group? What are you working on that you can tell us about, and what sort of innovation or inventions should we be expecting?
So two main fields: virtual reality. This is going to get to more scale. That's in production today with Google, but only thousands of downloads and only thousands of properties. So my work is on using new technologies to capture those properties. So a $6,000 camera does an amazing job, but what could you do with a phone, and can we get that in there in some way? And a second edition of this is coming out. So this is expensive, $1,200 phone, $200 or $150 headset. Too much for an agency to own. $499 standalone, connects to Wi-Fi. Every agency branch will have one. And that'll become a much more common item. And that's the way you'll show people around homes.
Well, we've talked about it in our business as well. The Matterport as an example, $6,000 for the camera. We don't have enough time to go for the agent to wait whilst our buyer's agents go through and map the house and video the house so we can bring it back to our clients. So we are very excited by that development in the sense that we can walk through with a better camera. It can be uploaded, the person can be taken out. You've got the 360 sort of eyeball type, or what do they call it, fish eye type look of everything, and we can bring it back for our clients. I think that makes perfect sense.
Augmented reality, which is where you use your phone to kind of hold it over the top of something and get extra information, digital information off an ad or a signboard. Struggling with that one. Really interesting in terms of R&D, and that people go, oh, that's incredible. And there's 2 axes we always search for: utility and novelty. So augmented reality is scoring high on novelty and low on utility right now. They go, oh, I think I'll just open your app. It's like, oh, as an inventor, that kills me. Getting beaten by our own products. But and that's why we have a big consumer research lab, is to not go out and go too far down those rabbit holes. But I've got a couple of ideas I can't tell you around about it. Maybe you could have me back later.
Just give you guys
a little beta test of that one around augmented that I think will work. And
let's let the Property Couch listeners have
I
an
was going to
exclusive.
say, if you want some beta testers, there's 30 or 40,000 people a week that we might be able to test with.
Yeah, precisely.
So who knows?
What I did at AREC to sort of go, this is what we're chasing. We want to solve this problem. So, you know, my phone's off and I go, hey Siri, are there any good houses for sale in North Melbourne?
The best rated one I see is Nardella Real Estate on Victoria Street, but it only averages 1 star. Is that the one you're looking for?
Can I get back to you, Siri?
Now it's not. I asked for any good houses for sale, and for, you know, a couple of $1 billion worth of R&D into intelligent assistance. That's pretty disappointing.
Yeah.
That will get solved.
Yeah.
It will know me. It will know I'm an investor.
Yeah.
It will know my budget.
Yeah.
It'll have my connection with you guys. It'll know my profile and what we've agreed I can afford in my plan, and it'll put that together.
Wow.
That's probably 3 years away because the race for intelligent assistance just got very heavy with Google, Facebook, Amazon, us trying to figure that out as well.
Yeah.
And the scary bit is, of course, Facebook knows the most about you.
Well, you let us know whenever you want to announce anything. We're more than happy to have you on. So, Ben, how good's this been?
Unbelievable. As usual, I was thrilled that you agreed to come on.
We're playing in the Inventor sandpit here today. And I mean, we've only touched the tip of the iceberg. So, Nigel, we appreciate the insights. We appreciate you coming in. And just a reminder to anyone who's actually listening to this, Ben, on their iPhone or their Android or on the train, they can actually go to thepropertycouch.com.au and actually watch. This is actually a vodcast today.
It is.
And we'll also, I think we're going to get some footage from you that we might be able to cut in for those listeners that the Superstar Stig might be able to put in so you can see what Ben was seeing before in that virtual reality. So that'll be absolutely terrific as well. But again, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, hasn't it, Ben?
Oh, amazing. I can't wait to go down to the labs and have a bit of a look around.
Yeah, come on and put some more things that make you look funny. And
maybe
ruin your hair.
We might even do a little video.
We'll wander down, we'll do a video and check that out, which will be
That's
terrific.
Lovely.
So, Ben, sign off for me with a very quick life hack.
Yes, please.
Do you know the old school sunscreen, do you know that was rectangle in shape and then you could just take the lid off? If you get an empty one of those, slot your iPhone in, slot your keys and your money, put the lid back on, put it in your beach bag. No one suspects that that's where everything is. So as summer's approaching, because we're in August, approaching summer, there's a little tip for you.
That's a ripper.
You like that one?
I don't mind that one.
All right.
Because obviously all your valuables aren't where people can knock them off.
Can see them. So
where'd you get? Is that yours or?
Mate, I'm under enormous pressure for these life hacks, as you know. So I've got to test these. So I've definitely tested it.
You wanted? Yep. I'm glad you're bringing them to us.
So whenever, and of course, a shout out to our listeners if they've got a terrific life hack that I can try. I am always open and willing to hear from you. So, did you know?
Did you know? So I've got a few. I've got a couple for today. Some on the sort of technology front. So the first one: what is the most expensive thing that humans have ever built, and how much did it cost to build it?
Oh, we would have to defer to the chief inventor, wouldn't we?
Okay.
Yeah.
The rocket to the moon?
No, but you're in the right sort of ecosystem. You're in the right sort of...
The space station?
Very good. Very good. And how much?
100 billion?
$150 billion.
I'd give that an A mark. That was an A pass there.
You're on my specialist area.
That's why he's the chief inventor. Yeah. So there's that one. So I thought that one's good.
Ask me who won the grand final last year, and I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah.
The other one
wasn't
is
Collingwood.
Apple just released their quarterly results.
Yep.
Okay, so how much revenue do they generate every minute of the day?
Every minute of the day.
Not every hour, every minute.
Let's go for, I'm seriously going for a stab here. So 3 million a minute.
Or no, it's a little bit less than that. That's extraordinary numbers.
2.9. All right.
$327,000 a minute.
Fair income.
A minute. That's pretty insane.
Second only to your salary.
Yeah, right. That's ridiculous. Okay, and the final one, just to put it all back into context, Bob Marley's final words. Money is not life. Money is not life. And that's where we need to bring all this back into context. We're about creating, wealth creation and building the life we want, but money isn't it. So, and Bob Marley probably,
Well, Bill Gates said that he goes, I've got a really beautiful home and I've got a really beautiful office, so I'm not afraid to spend money. He goes, I just don't have expensive hobbies. And I thought, that's pretty cool. He doesn't sit there and drive wear the latest suits and have the latest watches. Well, I'm sure he probably has some of that, but he wants a comfortable house, and that's in line with what Jan Summers said too. She wants a nice house to live in, go on a nice trip, but the rest is pretty humble.
Experiences are what we're after.
Okay, a couple of quick ones. If you're listening to this podcast for the very first time, we recommend that you go back to episode 1 because it's an ongoing series. It's a what would you call it, Ben? It's a step-by-step.
Oh, it's building. A journey with us.
It's a journey. The reason we say there's 2 reasons why we say go 1.5 speed from the beginning. 1 is so you can get through the content quickly, and 2. What were we thinking back in those days, mate? We didn't have any sort of banter between us.
Didn't
we? Just got the details out.
Because we were all about
we were trying to get it out there, mate. We were learning a bit about ourselves back then, weren't we?
People probably want us to go back to that and drop the banter.
Exactly. And if you want to follow us on, social media, the property couch at Bryce Holdaway and at Ben Kingsley AU. And again, if you're listening to this on your smartphone, why don't you check us out at thepropertycouch.com.au where we'll cut in some of that cool footage that we'll get from Nigel. Again, it's been terrific. I think the time has absolutely flown. We appreciate you taking the time to come into the studio and chat to us, Nigel. And Ben, until next week.
Knowledge is empowering, but only if you act on it.
Okay, and mate, I do that every week.
I know. I love it.
I love it.
You say the same thing to me twice.
Yeah.
See you later.
See you later.